Abraham will go a little bit longer here. Single coverage with Dantzler out there, and the ball is incomplete. Tim Jones had a shot at it as he was running past Dantzler after a bit of a bobble.
Well, I think Tim Jones was so locked in on the football, he never saw Dantzler.
Make sure to stay tuned. At the end of the video, guys, I'm going to go over my thoughts and opinions on each of these cornerbacks. Stay tuned.
Hang around. Harris loads up and throws, and it's intercepted. Trayvon Diggs. Speaking of that Bama secondary.
Empty backfield, pressure. This one Luke deep. And it's going to be picked off. Intercepted by Diggs, his second of the season. Spotted out at the 9.
Watkins, we already talked about, is a volume catcher. 73 catches a year ago for 9 touchdowns, and it's Diggs that just matched him up. The play before and this one. Last time it was an option route. This is an inside fade. And Diggs just simply makes a great catch as the receiver in the end. Trayvon Diggs running with him step for step. Oh my gosh. Trayvon Diggs almost makes an unbelievable interception. He tries to go up one hand and almost sticks that ball. If he doesn't hit the ground, I think he makes that.
Is this love that I'm feeling? Oh, damn.
Hey, boy.
We know how much work we put into this, the whole team, the whole coaching staff, and don't nobody else deserve this, man. Shout out to God, man. I'm proud of my teammates how hard they work for this, man.
rushes Terry Godwin.
Right, it may be he just took it right off his hip.
After review, the ruling on the field stands. First down on the field.
At the 33. Robinson drops it off. Looking for the first. They will not get it. That's because of Okudah. Johnny on the spot once again.
One of the things that makes Okudah so special as a corner, he's not just great in coverage, he's willing to come up and tackle and stick his face right in the mix. One of the more physical corners that you'll see.
Alright guys, let's get a little sweet tea and go over these players. First, so my number one cornerback, Jeff Okudah. This guy's easily a top 5 pick in the 2020 NFL draft. There's no way he makes it outside the top 10, but more than likely he's going in the first 5 picks. Here we have a kid that has an elite level man coverage skill set. He's still very good in zone as well, and he's really going to excel in any system that he is put in. This kid does showcase physicality and ball skills that make him just a complete cornerback. He has no red flags. And honestly, there's not many holes to his game, especially in coverage. If I had to nitpick, I would say, he could, he has some room for improvement in the zone. Still very good though in that area, but does have room for improvement. And maybe in tackling, he is a very willing tackler, but there are times where he waits for the runner to come to him versus, just attacking. So that's maybe a small area he can try to improve on. But overall, man, this guy's a top-notch Jalen Ramsey type prospect right out of college. Likely he's a future Pro Bowler with the potential to be a lockdown corner in the NFL. And really?
Sorry, I didn't know. Do you want your lunch?
Oh snap! Thanks, babe. Chicken casserole. He's likely a future Pro Bowler with potential to be a lockdown cornerback at the NFL level, and with only 1 year as an NFL starter has much more room left to improve, which is amazing considering how good he is already. Although he did grow up in Grand Prairie, Texas, and would be a perfect instant day one starter and impact player for the Cowboys, it's not likely we end up with him, as he's going to go way too early in the draft and we'd have to give up the house to get him. So it's not very likely, unfortunately. Number 2, Christian Fulton. This is a guy you're going to find a tough time finding a lot of tape on and a lot of highlights on. And the reason being is also the reason I love him so much. It's because teams are afraid to throw to him. They don't attack him often. They choose to throw elsewhere. And they prefer to try to stay away from him often. They really did not attack him a lot in college, which tells me they had great respect for the guy as a cornerback. And this guy's a blanket in man coverage who will not often get tested. I'm not so sure I would call him a ball hawk, but this guy is very sticky in coverage. He's got fluid hips, great patience, and his awareness is top notch. Put this guy in press man coverage and watch how he'll smother their routes, making it very difficult for them to stay on their routes and really affect their timing. He's not dominant tackling the ball carrier, but he's also not bad either. He's average, but he's very willing to, initiate contact, which I like. There is one issue with him, which could cause me to eventually bump him back to number 3, maybe. We'll see how I feel about it as the draft approaches, but 2017, he was suspended the entire year for tampering with NCAA drug test. So that is a slight red flag. We'll see, how teams feel about it going forward as we get closer to the draft. But to my knowledge, he hasn't been in any trouble since then or had any kind of issue since then. So, we'll just see how that goes. Overall, I do see him being a future Pro Bowler in the NFL, and I do have him right now as my number 2 cornerback in college football coming into this 2020 NFL draft. And we'll see how that goes. It could change after the combine with the number 3 guy on my list. There's a possibility I could move CJ Henderson in front of him. We'll see how that goes. I want to see how Fulton runs at the combine and make my decision from there. Right now I'm going to leave him at number 2, but there is that possibility I might swap him and Henderson after the combine. We'll see how that goes. But I do believe Fulton is a Sherlock first rounder. I see him going in that mid-teens to mid-20 range, leaving him as a very, very real possibility at pick number 17 for the Cowboys if we should not re-sign Byron Jones. We'll see how that goes. That leaves us at number 3, CJ Henderson, Florida. I do really like this guy, obviously. For obvious reasons. CJ Anderson, this guy is one of my favorite players in the draft. Here's a guy that has great arm length and reach, which really helps him out making a play on the ball. Even when he's made a slight error in coverage, that reach and length that he has really helps him recover very easily, and I really like that about this guy. He's a very physical corner, which I love. He's very willing to step up in there and try to stop the run, but he does tend to miss tackles from time to time and needs to consistently wrap up better. He's really got to work on wrapping up. That's his main thing with as far as tackling goes. Wrap up, CJ. The thing I like about this guy, he has very soft hands. He's got good hands. That's something that I believe will lead to more interceptions at the NFL level for him, and something that I think teams, will value. It's extra little bonus there at cornerback. Usually guys are playing cornerback because they ain't got good enough hands to play wide receiver. Well, this guy's got hands, so that's a bonus. He has great vertical speed, which does allow him to recover rather well if he is beat initially. But because of this, there are times where he keeps his eyes in the backfield a little longer than he should. And this could result in great plays sometimes, or it could also result in giving up a few key receptions throughout a game at times. The biggest reason I love this guy, his on-field passion reminds me of Dez Bryant. He has that same type fire that I always seen in Dez Bryant that I loved on the field, and I think that is something our secondary is lacking. And that kind of fire, I just think it's really needed in our secondary. It really, put our secondary over the top to have a guy like that. It's real fiery and passionate about the game. Like Fulton, he's also a very real possibility at number 17 for the Cowboys if we are not to re-sign Byron Jones. And he has future Pro Bowl caliber potential. And he's a guy I really like. I think he goes off the board between the mid-teens to mid-20s as well, like Fulton. And he's a guy that doesn't come with any red flags that bother me. Number 4. Speaking of number 4, pay Dak. Pay Dak. Number 4, Trayvon Diggs, cornerback, Alabama. This is the younger brother of Stephon Diggs, Minnesota Vikings wide receiver. He actually was a wide receiver in high school. He came to Alabama and ended up playing on both sides of the ball initially, which eventually led to him being a great cornerback for the team. I'll start out with a few negatives on him. He can tend to be overly aggressive at times, which can lead to him sometimes getting beat. And he needs to improve on tackling. I don't know if it's so much that he can't tackle. I think it's more so he's unwilling to tackle a lot of times. It seems like he kind of hesitate and wait for someone else to get in there, and is kind of hesitant to get off his blocks. So I like to see him improve tackling, and some of the great things about him though in the coverage game is from him being aggressive. So it's kind of like win some, you lose some, but he's a little overly too aggressive at times, and that does get him beat sometimes. I'd say he's best utilized in zone coverages. He does have a real good understanding of coverage spacing, and I will say though, I think he can be efficient in press as well, but it's something I think he could use a little bit more work on. Some more positives about him: he's 6'2". He's got the height to really make a play on those 50-50 balls. He's really good at high pointing the balls, and he has great hands too, being a former wide receiver. So that, that's good as well. Like C.J. Anderson, he's got good hands. He's got good hips for his size. He's got great long speed, and he's got a lot of room to still develop also. So I do think that he's going to be a good starting caliber NFL cornerback. Now, I would be okay with him as a day one starter, but not as my team's number 1 corner. I think he would be a good, number 2 corner to come in for a team. I wouldn't consistently want him lined up against number 1 wide receivers just yet, however. But as far as the Cowboys go, unless the Cowboys are willing to trade back in a little bit later into the first and pick him up, I don't see him being a possibility for the Cowboys with our first pick. I think I don't value him at number 17, but I do see him going maybe around the mid-20s to the early 30s kind of range. So I don't see him being a real possibility for the Cowboys, but I do think he'll be a good cornerback for someone in the NFL. Lastly, we have number 5, Cameron Dantzler, Mississippi State. I may have him higher than most, but I really like this kid. I just see some potential in him. I guess maybe more so than some. He's 6'2". He's got great length, and that really tends to save him if he does have some issues with his technique, and allows him to recover very well because of that length. But I also do think his technique will improve as he goes forward in the NFL. He's another guy I wouldn't trust as my number 1 cornerback, right off the bat, but he can contribute and be a solid starter, I think, in year 1 for some teams out there. He flashes ball skills, but still does have room to improve in that category. Another thing I like is he has great route anticipation skills when playing in the zone. Areas of concern. An area of concern for me though would be his being a little bit underweight in comparison with how tall he is. Now that could cause him to be a little bit bullied by bigger, more physical wide receivers, I believe. So that's something that would concern me a little bit. I think it would benefit him greatly though to add on about 10 to 15 pounds. And I think that would really help him out in that category. Guys, hot chop! Overall, Overall, Dantzler was one of the best cornerbacks in the SEC the past 2 seasons, and he's a guy I do really like. He you know, these past 2 seasons he did very well. He gave up very little production to most of the opposing wide receivers he did face against. Also, he doesn't come with any red flags. I'd like him in zone coverages where I think it looks like he, you know, feels more comfortable attacking the ball, and I see him having a very high ceiling potential, but also a very low floor potential as well. So I think he's kind of a risky pick as far as that goes. I think he could be really good, but he could also be really bad in the NFL. So he's one of those guys you're kind of taking a shot on for the potential that you see. Gladney from TCU might be the better pick right here, honestly, but it's just the instinct thing, guys. There's something about Dantzler I really like, and that I see in him. So we'll see how it all plays out. I see him being a guy that's probably going to be picked in about the mid to late 2nd round, and it's possible he does slide into the 3rd round. He's someone that I would be very comfortable with the Cowboys taking with our 2nd or 3rd round pick. So yeah, that's it, guys. I do want to give some honorable mentions though. A few guys I really like that didn't quite get into my top 5. Any of these guys could easily be switched out with Dantzler for that number 5 spot. In no particular order. These are just some other guys that I really do like. Jeff Gladney, Damon Arnett, AJ Terrell, Jalen Johnson, Bryce Hall. And another guy to keep an eye out on for is this is a guy that's very undersized but plays way bigger than his size, and you know, this could be a really good quality gem in the mid rounds as he slides because of his size, is Amik Robertson. So check him out as well. All right, guys, I appreciate it. I'll talk to y'all later, man. Cowboys, y'all. Hey, man, that's how the top 5 cornerbacks in the NFL 2020 draft does it. Ow! Hey, guys, I just wanted to say for everyone, all of the 7 people that probably finished this video, the ones that did watch it, I appreciate you guys. Sorry about the background noise with the kids, but I got 3 kids under 6, pregnant wife with a baby, and a big chocolate lab dog. That's just my life. There's always background noise, so hope you guys still enjoyed it, and I appreciate you guys. See ya.